Welcome to the Tom Golly Official Podcast. With me today is one of my absolute favorite YouTuber, content creators, and comedians, Jack Vale. Welcome, Jack.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Dude, it is awesome that you're here. Like, it's still, I'm still kind of freaking out, honestly.
Well, in Murfreesboro, Tennessee.
Here
we are.
Like, I message a lot of people that I admire or have an interest in and ask, hey, I got a podcast. It's just starting out, but here's the reasons I would love to have you on. And most people just ignore. And I out of the blue, I get a text message on my phone from like, hey, it's Jack Vale. It's like, what? What is this? This doesn't happen. And here you are, man. It's so awesome. So thank you for joining. And,
you're welcome.
Man,
My pleasure.
I've been a fan of yours probably dating back easily maybe 10, 12 years ago when you were collaborating with like the Ed Bassmaster and stuff like that. And I always enjoyed your brand of just sort of the way you went about your comedy. It was very doable. I was very good at mimicking other people's stuff. So like, hey, that's funny. I'm going to do stuff like that randomly just to copy it because it's funny in the moment. And I always enjoyed your style. Like the nonsense has always been really, really great. Just kind of walking up. You're kind of asking for nonsense directions. Like, and it's just, that's just golden, man.
Thanks, man. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Was that all just started like random, like, hey, let's do this and show our friends videos? Or did you guys always plan on making content to, become well known?
Before I uploaded anything on YouTube, I had my Pooter, which I left in the car.
Oh no.
How stupid is that?
Yeah. Oh no.
Cut. I'm going to go to the car. I'll be right back.
Yeah, I think you need it. You want to cut?
I think we probably need it.
I think you should
Why
get
didn't
it.
I not? It's in the car.
Yeah.
Why didn't I bring it in?
Yeah.
Doesn't make any sense.
No, I want to help.
I'll be right back. The thing that came first was the Pooter.
The Pooter.
The Pooter.
Okay.
Fart noise toy. You know what the Pooter is. You've been watching for a long time, right?
I have, yeah.
So, I'm out of breath. I'm going down the stairs to go down to the car. It's only one flight of stairs. I'm out of breath. So I started making all these calls to like magic shops, gag shops all over the country, little novelty places, right?
Okay.
And I wanted to see who would take my Pooter, and I discovered it's difficult. It's hard to get people to be willing to carry your Pooter in their store.
Yeah.
And it took me about 6 months to get it going. I had to find a good manufacturer and, all that kind of stuff. So finally, the only thing that I knew was that I would have a Pooter in my hand everywhere I went, restaurants, post office, whatever. If I give it a squeeze, people around me laugh. Mm-hmm. So I kind of felt like if people could see how it functions, how it works, and the responses from people, it'd probably sell itself.
Yeah.
People would just be like, I got to have one of those. So that's why I started uploading videos on YouTube.
Okay.
For that purpose, without really thinking about making money from the videos. In fact, I wasn't a YouTube partner or, anything like that. There were no ads.
Yeah.
Until...
That's early YouTube back then.
It was.
Yeah.
2007, something like that.
Yeah, that's
almost 2008. And so that's what I started doing. I started just doing fart videos, and I discovered that every single one of them was funny.
Yeah.
And always making people laugh. So I just kept doing it. And before you knew it, YouTube reached out and they're like, we want to make you a partner. And so I filled out the thing. And my first YouTube check, I was so excited. It was $95. And when you don't make anything online, but your Pooter sales go up a little bit, you're still doing all right.
Yeah.
You get $95 the first month that you become a YouTube partner. That was a big deal. Second month after that was $303. I'm like, hey, we're going in the right direction, And so, it opened up a lot of doors for me, and I was able to continue doing YouTube and making these silly videos. And before you knew it, fart videos kind of morphed into doing other silly things in public. And my wife one day, she goes, there's this guy on YouTube. I don't know if it's really my sense of humor yet, but I think you're going to like him. And it was Ed Bassmaster. And so I'm like, oh, I can't wait to see, So I came home and we found this guy, and he had seen some of my videos online, and he was like sending messages and stuff.
Okay.
And I'm like, this guy's really, really funny. And back then, he hadn't done any pranks. So he's got this character, Always Testy. And Testy's always got an attitude, chip on his shoulder, whatever. But he was doing it as like, sketches.
Yeah.
So it was just these little sketches that he was writing with a friend of his.
Yeah.
And I was like, I love this, So then we started getting together and doing different things, and then we got into, and then we just started being stupid together.
That is the. Actually, I meant to mention it earlier. Actually, that is one of my absolute all-time favorite collaborations of you guys. Is when he's doing the job interview one, and
yeah,
and it's great because he brought a 40 with him, and he's like, he's getting like a lecture on bringing a 40, and you turn and drink from it. I was screaming, laughing. That was one of my favorite collaborations of you guys, man. That was
fun.
I don't know how you did that with a straight face.
Yeah.
I don't that must take a lot of mental strength to not break in those moments where people think, this guy in a I think it's a Randall Cunningham jersey is like, it's like, hey,
yeah,
I don't want to work, and it's easily one of the funniest skits that and just that moment alone, there's comedy gold. Was that part of it planned, or did you just kind of come up with it on the fly?
Ed and I beforehand would just go, here's the basic idea, let's do it.
That's it. Oh.
And then we would just kind of ad lib and just kind of go. Go with it. And it was, I'm not going to lie, it was hard to keep a straight face sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
Because sometimes you're like, you feel it coming on. And the other person that you're working with, in this case, Ed, will do something you don't expect.
Yeah.
It's tough. When it's improv like that, you don't know what's going to happen. It's kind of tough to keep a straight face.
There's the one character, one collab you guys did where I think it was like you were in school talking to I think the principal or the teacher.
Oh, yeah.
And he comes walking. I don't know. I just don't know how you guys did it. That is just impressive, man.
Yeah,
I'm very familiar with. I've been a fan of both you guys, and it's unbelievable what you guys have accomplished. And I hope you guys are.
Thank you.
And I think laughter is comedy's changed a lot over the years. I think with cancel culture, all that, and I think the beauty part about what you guys do, is it's I want to call it. It sort of toes the line of wholesome. And what like some people don't like fart humor, fine, but I don't think anyone could ever cancel what you guys have done, and you can continue to do it, and I think that's harder than like, what do they call that, blue comedy, where it's just very like edgy and rough. Like I love that you guys have found a way to do this and be successful with it, where there's something for everybody in your content.
Yeah,
and that's pretty wild.
Thank you. Thanks. Appreciate you saying that. Thank you.
And my first the first video I ever seen. Hey, can you bring it up on the screen? My first video that I had ever seen was this, and this was you in it, and this is what had me.
HabbaBaba.
Yep, this right here.
Huh?
It's
What?
it's.
I don't know what you want. HabbaBaba. I'm not understanding. Huh? HabbaBaba.
And this right here.
Dr. Pepper.
And there's a spot where your voice.
I don't know
This
what
one.
it is.
Oh, that poor girl.
All right, you can cut it off.
Oh, that poor
that
girl.
sold me right there. I'm like, this is funny. Follow instantly.
Of all the HabbaBaba videos you could have pulled up, you pulled up the one that had my favorite clip ever. And believe it or not, it's the one where I say HabbaBaba and the lady goes, Dr. Pepper? Dr. Pepper. And then there was even a guy who one time they were trying so hard to figure out what I was trying to order, and when I said HabbaBaba, they would say Dr. Pepper. HabbaBaba? Hamburger? HabbaBaba? And I would say it the same way every time, and every time they give me a different answer, they was like going down the menu trying to figure out what I was. French fries?
The best part of that video is the very end. There's the heavyset guy who doesn't even flinch when Ed pops up like HabbaBaba, and he's like, What?
Huh? What? Yeah, it's fun.
It's
Fun.
incredible, man. That and
Fun.
the Be Extreme was always fun.
Mm-hmm.
Just I mean, where do you guys come up with like?
That was something that he did. That was all him. But I don't know. I almost think that in the early stage of YouTube, it was like it didn't take much creativity to really get people to laugh.
Sure.
Because nobody was doing it. It was like when television first came out. It was like this was a new world. I mean, you were going to YouTube not to see pranks, but to see other types of content, and then it became this platform where you could see anything. And so as pranks started to get more popular, more pranksters started to kind of appear and show up. And I miss those days of YouTube in a way. I'm not going to lie. Like, I don't know what would happen if we decided to do like HabbaBaba revised or something, like do a new HabbaBaba video. I don't even know. Would anybody even laugh? I have no idea.
I don't know.
I don't know either. Has comedy changed in the last 12, 13 years? I have no idea.
Yeah, I mean, because it's become a weird world now. People get offended over very easily.
Yeah. Well, now, you can do something that you wouldn't think is offensive, but if it makes somebody upset for any reason, then you're the bad guy. Mm-hmm. I'll tell you, there's a video that I did in, I think, 2010 or 11, and I called it "I Got Punched."
Yeah.
And I didn't do anything different in this video. Okay? Yep. Pooter video, had it in my pocket. There was an elderly couple. Guy standing. I think they were both in scooter. I think they were both on those little mopeds riding around or whatever. In the video, you can pull it up if you want to. In the video, I'm standing and they're sitting. So that puts my butt right about here.
Yep.
And their face right over here.
Yep.
So I saw that as an opportunity. I thought this was going to be hilarious, But I'm actually further. I'm actually like this. So on camera, you can't really tell. Right. But I was not here and here. I was actually more towards the camera a little bit, but it's hard to tell. Anyway, that's all I did. I didn't do anything with my leg, nothing weird. I just made the sound, and I walked away. Then you see me walking past the camera. I do it again. That guy chased me around the store until finally he found me, but I knew it was time to, give myself up. Yeah. So I took this thing out of my pocket, held it up, and I said, "Hey, have you seen those candid camera?" I'm trying to explain it to him. He wasn't going to have it, right? He was so worked up into a frenzy that he hits me twice in the middle of Target, right?
Yeah, I've seen it. He kind of missed the first time. He clipped you. Yeah. Then the second time, he's same thing. His timing was off, but he still got you.
But he wanted to get me.
Oh, he wanted to get you good.
He's like, "Oh, that wasn't good enough. I got to go again." Right? This guy. I was okay with everything. I mean, it shocked me. I'd never seen anybody react like that before. Because up until that point, I probably made 100, 150 videos. Yeah. I made a lot of videos up to that point. So anyway, all of a sudden, people don't realize, the comments that came in were all about, wow, that guy overreacted for a fart sound, And then, I don't know, 5 years ago maybe, there was a shift in the comments, and somebody pointed it out to me. And this video at that time, it had, I don't know, a couple million views or something. And then they're like, wow, people really are mad at you for this video. The worst one to me, the one that I would, if I took offense to a comment, it's probably leave old people alone. Leave old people alone. Mm-hmm. Maybe the heart and the intention behind that is okay. Yeah. But my dad, never actually had a dad, but my stepdad, who I called my dad for years and years and years, died when he was 94. Lived a full life. He was the pull my finger guy all the way to the end. Yeah. Super proud of this, right? Yeah. Could make it work. He could use it really well and everything. And I was kind of raised around this environment where, I knew that anybody could appreciate humor and comedy. It doesn't matter. I don't care if you're a veteran, if you're old, if you're young, if you're, none of that stuff really makes any difference. And so I never really discriminated against. I never really looked at anybody and thought, no, I'm not going to go get them. I'm not going to prank them. I'm not going to. It just, if the opportunity's there, I would just do it. And so I just never saw things that way. I remember this one time we were in Hollywood, and we were getting on an elevator, and this was just a few years ago. We were getting on this elevator, and we were shooting a video that day going up and down. I think it was this, farting in an elevator. And all of a sudden the doors open, and there's this lady with a guy in a wheelchair, okay? And she's pulling the wheelchair onto because the door's open for her, so she's pulling it onto the elevator. The doors start to close. She turns and she looks at me. I had already looked at my couple of guys that I was with, and I said, we're not going to do anything. Because you could tell that the person in the wheelchair was incapacitated in some way.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to make a spectacle about anything. So we kind of let those opportunities go by, right?
Sure.
Well, and then we're just kind of chilling there for a minute, and this lady looks at me, and her mouth drops open when she sees my face. And I'm like, uh-oh, am I in trouble? And she goes, she's squeezing the pooter. She's squeezing an invisible pooter in her hand. And I'm like, and I pull it out of my pocket, and I show it to her. I'm like, yeah. And she points. It was her son who was in the wheelchair. She points to him and goes, like that. She's egging me on to prank her son in this wheelchair.
That's amazing.
I'm like, okay. All I need is your permission. So I take this thing, and I cross my arms and I give it a squeeze, and he starts making this noise. I can't imitate it, but he starts making this noise. It was him laughing is what it was.
Yeah.
And he's looking back. He's trying to look and everything. And finally, the doors open. She pushes the chair out, turns the chair, and he sees me, and he goes nuts. This kid has been watching my videos for years.
Wow.
And
that's awesome.
I thought, how could anybody say, don't get that guy?
Yeah.
Don't get that lady over there because, whatever. As if because somebody has a disability or they're of a certain age, they don't have a sense of humor.
Yeah.
So
I would say that that's probably the last couple of years that people have that probably mindset, and I think they miss out on the fact that maybe people don't understand too. I'm sure a majority of the time you go back and let people know, hey, by the way, that was a prank. This is what we do.
Mm-hmm.
That I don't think I think people just have this idea that you've just filmed them, they felt weird, and you just left it there like that. And,
sometimes.
that might happen for whatever reason, but that's certainly not the intention. But I think maybe people have this idea that, once you get your footage, you just leave it be. And I think it's fair to say that that's probably not always the case or even the intention to hurt anybody or, and to be honest, as someone who has a lot of experience with older people, they actually have sometimes a better sense of humor than younger people.
Yeah.
And stuff.
No, it's true.
And,
it's true.
But I mean, you do a lot of cool stuff that, and I don't know if if you are as passionate maybe about some of the other content as you are with the Pooter stuff. That I would guess so.
Mm-hmm.
But some of the stuff that you have put out has just been, golden lately. Like one of my favorite things to mimic of yours is messing with the scam calls, the people who call up for the, they call up for, what is it? The
IRS scam is a big one.
Guys. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I love how you just kind of you'll waste their time and you have that old man voice that you do.
Yeah,
and it's really good stuff. I've kind of messed with that a little bit. They'll call up and I'll get real Southern real quick.
Good.
And be I'll just start being like, Mom, is this about the alarm clock that I left out in the field there? And they're just like, no, sir. This is about the your 2005 Chevrolet, and I'm like. And I just start naming random cars. I'm like, oh, is this about the Oldsmobile? This must be the old.
Yeah.
I'll keep those. It's the warranty people. I'll keep them on the phone as long as I can, and they'll just be like, like, which cars do you have? And I'll just start naming car after car after car after car until they just realized that I'm messing with them. And the longer we can keep them on the phone, the less the likelihood of scamming someone they are. But.
See, and it's a lot easier to scam them and trick them with a crazy voice like that. And that's the thing. If you talk like you normally talk, or I talk like I normally talk, and you start doing goofy things or saying silly things, then they kind of pick up on it a little bit quicker. You can keep them on the phone longer if you're doing an old man voice, old lady's voice, somebody from the deep south, something like that, because then they take advantage of that, and they think that. So if you answer the phone, hello, they got you exactly where they want you. They think, like, oh, good, I got this. I'm going to definitely take his money. So it's fun.
Yeah, it's really great, and I think more people should check out your content just for a how-to when they get those calls.
Yeah.
So lately, you've been putting some content out that has been. It's very evident that you are a believer in Christ, and I think for me, one of the first videos I had seen where I'm like, man, what a heart. I wonder if he's a Christian. In recent memory, I think it was you and your son had gone and just invited some homeless people to McDonald's, and I remember seeing some of the hate comments there about people make comments like, "Oh, why'd you video it?"
Yeah, why'd you? Or the best hate comment about that video is, why didn't you take them to someplace healthy? You can't even buy a homeless guy a Happy Meal. You know what I mean? Because why didn't you feed him broccoli? Why didn't you bring him, it's absurd. It's absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
And this, in LA, in this particular place that we did this, we were driving by, and my son had a gift card that he hadn't used, and he's like, I really want to do something good with this. That's why we did that.
Yeah.
There's a big park across the street directly from a McDonald's. And the homeless sleep there and stay there and live there and whatever. And that's why. It was just the convenience factor. It was like a bunch of people that probably want to eat, and here's McDonald's. So that's why we did it that way.
And it was great. I mean, and people don't seem to understand that, okay, yeah, you videoed it because it helps to inspire.
Yeah.
And at least that's my take on it is, it helps inspire. People are going to see that video and be like, wow, what a good thing. Wonder if there's something I could do. And it definitely, to me, the video did not come across as, hey, look at this good thing we're doing. We're good people. It wasn't that even a little bit.
Yeah. Thank you. I don't video stuff like that.
Yeah.
It was out of my element to do that. I did it in that particular instance. I've done it there's a few times that I did it. Like there's one time where I was giving money to people directly, and I did that because it was hilarious. It was a really funny video.
Yeah.
Because the way that the money was given, there was a twist to it, and I won't go into it, but it's funny. And so that made sense to me. But just going out and doing good deeds is not something that I've ever filmed or really done. In that particular instance, it felt good to me. It felt like I was on an outing with my son. I was super proud of him because he's got this gigantic heart for to help people, and I'm like, let's make this a really, really cool thing that we can look back on and go, this is cool. What happened. So
it was definitely very inspiring, and to know that was your son's idea and something he wanted to do. It makes it even more special.
Cool.
So as far as your content goes, have you avoided? Have you felt like you had to avoid doing like overtly faith-based stuff to not like alienate some of your audience, or is it a bit of conscious decision, or did you just not feel like it fit what you were trying to do?
Actually, I don't think I ever thought about it one way or another. I've definitely never held back on purpose or felt like, I think I've always been somewhat outspoken about the Lord whenever it was appropriate and didn't feel like there was anything, forced for a specific
Yeah.
purpose or anything like that.
It often I feel like for some Christian content creators, a lot of it does feel very forced and not inauthentic, and it's not very palatable, And when I have seen it from you, it's been very like, well, that's the real deal, and it's but I know for some who are Christians who create content that isn't necessarily geared toward a Christian audience, a lot of times I find it's a conscious decision so they don't alienate anybody, because I believe that they feel like, well, if they're overtly Christian, there are people who might, just be like, oh, well, I'm an atheist. I don't follow that anymore. I don't need this, And so that's interesting that it's just, you just went about your content the way that you felt like you should. And, I mean, it's what I always appreciated was just the authenticity of everything you ever did. It's just, it comes across very, I don't know, it's very relatable, I think. And I think that's one of the reasons why I like it so much, because anyone can do an old man voice when someone makes a phone call. And I think because of that, we could sort of live vicariously through you, because, it takes a very special person to be able to create, some of the moments that you create clearly on the fly. Like, your access to funny is far beyond most people, I think, because it's not easy to come up with something clever to say or in a moment to continue on a joke, and I think that's it's a talent and a half, man. I've tried to do the comedy thing and it's exhausting. It's like, I just don't know how people do it.
The when you're on your own time, it's a little easier, I think, and you can kind of, I don't know. I'm not always necessarily in the mood to do it, but I remember I did this thing for George Lopez, and when he had his TV show, his talk show, and I was a correspondent for him, and he would send me to events and stuff. And one time he sent me to the Grammys, and so I represented the George Lopez show at the Grammys, and I got the mic and everything, and it was a show that was on TBS, and celebrities would come by the red carpet, and I'm interviewing people and stuff, and I did nonsense there to these people.
I love nonsense.
And nonsense is tough when you're like on the spot. You got to think of all these random words that don't go together and string them along and say something that doesn't make sense. And so Nicki Minaj and Miley Cyrus and all these people were coming by, and I was pranking all these people. And that was exhausting. That was the first time I had ever done something really out in public that really was exhausting. Yeah. Because you got these people behind you. They're like, all right, let's go. You can't take your time because you got one shake. Miley Cyrus is there. You got one chance to get this right, And, but yeah, you're right. It is kind of, tiring.
Gosh, I don't even know. I think part of me, there'd be this voice in my head going, I'm meeting Miley Cyrus for the first time, and this is what I'm going to do.
I'm telling you. It's so... I work with Circle now, which is, the Grand Ole Opry's TV network.
Oh, okay.
Okay, the Circle network. And I have done some stuff for them. And so now I'm talking to some of the people that I pranked that night, like Little Big Town and stuff like that. I'm like, these guys... So that's, really fun. Because that's the other thing. You never know. Like, different steps along the way through this journey, you meet up with these people again. And so you want to hear something really awful? Since you're a Christian music guy, I got to tell you this. So Lecrae was there at the Grammys that night. I can't believe I've never publicized this. I've never said this like live anywhere, I don't think.
Exclusive on the Tom Golly podcast.
That's right. So Lecrae, excited me that night more than anybody else because I'm a Christian music guy too.
Yeah.
He was a Christian music guy right here. It's Lecrae, for crying out loud, So I'm excited. Nobody on my crew could understand that. So they were like, you got to get these people over here. They were pointing to these other people, And Tyga, that's who it was. This what is he, a rap guy or something like that?
Something like that, yeah.
He's over here. He's getting interviewed by Guillermo was next to me from Jimmy Kimmel Live.
Kimmel.
And Guillermo was interviewing Tyga. I had to hit Tyga next. He was on his way to me. And I see Lecrae over there. I'm like, I got to get Lecrae. What are we doing? You know, so they're like kind of amusing me. They're kind of like, what's the word?
Humoring?
Yeah, humoring me. Thank you. Not amusing me. They're humoring me. They're like, okay. So I'm yelling at Lecrae. And I'm like, hey, Lecrae. And we make eye contact, and I do some nonsense on him. It's from a distance, but we made eye contact, and he was confused, and I knew it. And everybody knew it. Good, you got him. Well, they didn't use that for the thing. I finished the thing that night. A year later, I go to a Christian music festival. Now, a lot of Christians have figured out that I'm a Christian. So when I show up at these Christian music festivals, they recognize me and they know me, and so they talk to me and stuff like that. But I was so excited because Lecrae was at this Christian music festival, and I, doggone it, I was going to meet him face to face, and I was going to remind him of what happened the year prior. Okay, so I waited in line, like any good fan. I waited in line with everybody else, and I'm at the end of the line. He's up there, you know, signing autographs and handing out stuff and taking pictures and all this stuff. And I get all the way up, okay, to the front of the line. Look, I'm this far away from him. Gosh, I can't believe I'm going to say this. It's so embarrassing. And I say, I don't know if you remember this or not, but last year when you were at the Grammys, I represented the George Lopez show. And I had the mic and everything, and I started messing with you with the nonsense. Remember that? And you looked at me, and you were so confused. And I go into this long spiel about what happened. He doesn't say anything, but he just listens intently. I get to the end of my spiel, and he looks at me, and he goes, Jack, I appreciate that, brother. But I'm not Lecrae. I'm Toby Mac's drummer.
Oh, no.
If there has ever been the most awkward white guy moment, how do you get that far away from somebody? He made me feel better. I was mortified, and he knew I was mortified. And finally, he kind of nudges me like this, and he goes, hey, man, don't feel bad. I've been getting it all day. So that helped, but I was still like, I can't believe that just happened. There's no way.
That's hilarious, man.
Yeah.
So I saw recently I think it was Instagram. You were greeting at church, and you did a little bit of nonsense.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really good. I like that.
Thank you. We got an email from our church that we go to, and they said, hey, you know, we're looking for volunteers. And so my wife and I volunteered to greet people at the church and wear the little tag and whatnot. So we did. And then I sent my pastor a text message. I'm like, hey, I'm greeting people coming up on Sunday. Just wanted to give you a heads up. I want to let you know I'm going to be good. And he gets back to me. He wrote right back to me, and he goes, Jack, listen, you know I don't ask much of you, but please do not be good. And I'm like,
great.
I'm in the right church.
Oh, yeah.
This is my church.
That's great. You know, I always thought, man, and maybe you've done this and I just haven't seen it, but it'd be awesome to send you into either like a UFC fight, or after the fight, and have you as a reporter and just do nonsense and be like, so, you know, and like do nonsense of the interview and then stick the mic and see what they do.
Yeah.
I can only imagine.
Oh, that would be a blast.
Or even like, you know, NHL games, it's like at the end of NHL game, nonsense questions. And because they always have the cookie cutter. Well, you know, it's always about team, Jim. You know, it's about team, about winning games. We're just, you know, we're out there just trying to get better. It doesn't even matter what you ask them anyway. It might be interesting to see.
Well, Miley, in this video, this Grammys video, people are caught off guard.
Oh, yeah.
They just don't know. And some people just want to leave you as quickly as possible and just pacify you so that they can get the heck out of there. And I remember Miley Cyrus, my line, this just fell right out of my mouth. Salad mixed with an anal tart, and it's great. And I handed the mic to her, and she goes, yeah, it's terrific. And she just kept moving on. She acknowledged what I said as if it were something of some significance. Wow. And then she just kept, you know. So people are just, they're not really paying attention. They're just like, yeah, you know.
Yep.
So, yeah, something like that would be fun.
Yeah, it is pretty wild.
Yeah.
I enjoy your content very, very much. And
Thank you.
Thank you. It's clever as heck, man. And
Thanks a lot.
I hope you get to meet Lecrae sometime soon.
I don't want to. I have decided I'm just, you know, and I never understood that either. I'm like, wait a second here, you know, how could I be this close to this guy? I'm like, because other people have told me, like, does everybody look alike? Of course not. What, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
It happened to me. What the heck is the matter with me?
Yeah.
But one day I will approach him face to face and I will tell him what happened with Toby Mac's drummer.
I've been so there was a time probably years ago, my wife and I went to a Mercy Me concert. And you know, back then I was not a singer, I was not even an artist or anything like that. We just went there, I was a fan, you know. And I wore this fedora that was very similar to one that the lead singer was always on social media wearing.
Oh yeah.
So I walk out of the bathrooms, I'm walking through the lobby, and someone's like, "Oh my gosh, can we get a picture?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, "What? Why?" And they're just like, "What do you mean why, man? We love your band." And I'm just like, "Oh, you think I'm Bart Millard?"
Yeah.
So I explained to the guy, "Listen, I'm not him. I'm sorry." And he thought it was so funny. He's like, "Let's take a picture anyway." So I ended up taking a picture with these people as the guy who they mistook.
Yeah, because they're gonna trick their friends and say, "Look who we met."
Oh yeah, but I honestly, I was at the Dove Awards. I had people, which I don't think I look anything like the guy, but they thought I was Mike Weaver, Big Daddy Weave. They thought I was him, and I'm like, I'm like a foot taller than that man. You know, I'm like, what? I wish I sung like both those people.
You know what it is? When people see on screen, this is what it was for me too.
Yeah.
It's all about the environment that you're introduced to somebody, and then when you see them on screen versus in real life, sometimes it's just a different thing.
Have you ever been mistaken for Jim Brewer, even a little bit, by anyone?
Not a little bit.
Okay,
it happens.
It
all
does
the
happen
time.
all the time. Okay, I thought so.
Not that long ago, I was in a bookstore, and this guy walks up to me and he goes, "I don't want to make a big deal about this, but I freaking love you." And I'm like, "Hey, thanks, man. I appreciate it." Now, most of the time, people are like, "You're Jack Vale," or "the fart guy," or something like that. So I kind of expected that. And he goes, "Goat Boy is the best."
Yeah.
So what people don't know is Jim is a really good friend of mine.
Yeah.
And Jim called me the other day and he goes, "Twice in the last week, people want to know if I'm Jack Vale." And if you've never sat down, Jim is actually a very, very successful stand-up comedian.
Yeah.
Like he's actor and, you know, all these, he's a credible guy, all these talents and gifts and everything. But as a stand-up comedian, the guy sells out every show that he does and tours and all this kind of stuff. Well, you get into like a conversation with Jim, and he kind of has regular conversations with people the way that he is on stage.
Oh yeah.
So he's very animated and he's kind of
man,
Let me tell you something.
Yep. There it is.
You know, and so it's fun because the two of us will sometimes, you know, we'll sign an autograph. He'll sign Jack Vale, or you know, people will ask me and I'll try to like imitate him or
That's
whatever.
hilarious.
The first time it happened to me was in 2012, and I was in Huntington Beach, and this guy who was probably on something, and he was downtown at the beach, and he was like, we were filming a TV show at the time called Bloopers with Dean Cain, and it was this like bloopers and practical jokes. It was the new version of it, right? So we were doing these gags and stuff, and we were taking a lunch break, and I was with a couple of producers, and we were walking down the sidewalk, no cameras or nothing like that, and then all of a sudden I just hear, "Woo! Yeah!" And I turn and look. You know, it's Huntington Beach, so it's like it could be anything. But I turn and look, and there's this guy, "I love you!" And I'm like, Hey, thanks, man. He gets up, he starts running over to me. We take pictures, the whole 9 yards. And he's got a friend of his with him. Yeah. So what are you doing here? We get into this whole conversation about how I live there and he can't believe it. And he thought I lived in New York and all this kind of stuff, right? And finally, we get to the end, and it wasn't until the end of the conversation he goes, Half-Baked. That was his movie, Half-Baked.
Half-Baked. Yeah.
And then it clicked with me. Oh, okay. He thinks I'm Jim.
Very good, man. Yes, it's so good. You know,
Yeah,
that's funny.
Jim's a Christian.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Got saved about, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago or something like that.
You know, and he just, I got a lot of respect. Like I've always had a big fan of his. I went to one of his specials that he recorded at the Paramount in Huntington, Long Island.
Mm-hmm.
Great. What stinks is he did this whole bit about Long Island, and it wasn't on the special.
Oh.
And I'm like, because when people joke about your hometown that only you get, you're just like, yeah, I can't wait to tell people about this, and it's not there. I'm like, oh, boo. But I got a lot of respect for him. You know, he's really standing his ground on, just on some of his beliefs lately. He canceled a couple of shows because the venues are either required or choosing to, want proof of vaccination. And he's like, look, I'm not about that. I'm not about, making decisions
whether
for
or
people.
not.
Yeah. I mean, he's not, again, and he's like, look, I'm not anti-vax, fine, but I'm anti, like, you can't go to a
choice.
thing. Yeah. And I got a lot of respect for him standing his ground, going, look, if I end up having to have a career where I play in people's backyards, that's fine. And that's Christ-like to me, man. And that's, it's really, really, it's one of those things where, people like yourself and him, it's like, you're like, oh, I've always really liked them. Oh, they're Christian. Now it makes sense.
Yeah. Jim, I can say this on his behalf 1,000%. Mm-hmm. He is the thing about this, the vaccination thing, is that it legitimately reminded him of segregation.
Yeah.
And that's really what it was all about for him. He really took his mind back to like the 50s.
Yeah.
And thought, wait a minute, what are we doing? And that's why it was so important to him, because he's like, everybody, I don't care what choices you make, you have the right to get a ticket and come laugh at this show. And so he just couldn't, in good conscience, he just couldn't do it.
And I have a lot of respect for him. I also have respect for the guys too, and just to say, not to say I don't respect the guys who say, well, it's what the venue's choosing to do. I'm out here trying to make a living. Like, that's fine too. But the fact that he said, well, this is where I stand, and I'm not going to compromise. That's always very special, and I think that's really great. That's cool that you know him. That's neat.
Yeah, especially when it's it's not a popular decision to make.
Yeah.
So you got to give somebody credit for being bold enough to be able to make that decision.
Sure.
In the same way that, well, not exactly in the same way, but almost kind of like how it's important to be bold in your faith in Christ. It's not that easy to do that anymore. It was even a little bit easier 15, 20 years ago when people were raised in church and stuff. The world has shifted and changed a lot.
Now, you've been a little more bold. Just actually think it was today you posted an Instagram video. Hey, can you actually pull that video up? On Instagram?
Oh.
Yeah, you prayed with this woman.
Oh. I just happen to be carrying this thing around with me. No,
and I thought, wow, man, like that's, first off, that's bold to pray in Walmart.
Well, I'll tell you, besides
but
going to the doctor,
what an amazing ministry that you have, whether you realize it's ministry or not.
So I hope that did help you.
Making people laugh, and then you actually took the time to pray with her about her situation. And I thought,
I'm sorry.
you can turn that off if you want.
It reminded me.
I couldn't even talk for 18 months.
Oh, listen to this.
Pray is what gets me through. Then my husband's drinking constantly, and it's
Oh.
like, oh.
Hey, we're in the middle of Walmart, but you're obviously a believer. Can I pray with you?
Yes, I am. Yes.
Father, in the name of Jesus, Oh, what's boy. your name?
Janelle.
I pray for Janelle right now.
Her
I
son
pray, Lord,
committed
that you would
suicide.
touch her right
Her
now, reveal yourself
husband
to her in
was
such a mighty and special way.
alcoholic or something
Yeah.
like that. And there's somebody else in her life that passed away even more recently. I mean, oh, she's getting ready. She was getting ready at that time to go into surgery for something. And, it just that moment reminded me that you don't know who's around you.
Yeah.
You just don't know who's around you. Here you are having a great day.
Now you don't have any idea what somebody's going through, and yeah, so
it's a powerful video, man. It really is.
Good.
I'll be honest, it convicted me a little bit because here I am, I'm this Christian artist. I do go on tour. I get on stage and tell people how great God is and to love people better. And yet, recently I was at the place I get coffee. It's a White Bison in Laverne, and there's a sweetheart of a girl who's always smiling, always happy. And to this day, that wasn't the case. And I was like, "Hey, you good today?" And she just went, "No, I just found out a friend of mine passed away, and I'm stuck working. I can't leave." And I was just like, "Oh, man, that's horrible." Well, hang in there. And I left. And seeing you do that went, man, I missed it. See, like, you could have just been like, "Well, thanks for being in my video. See you later." But you knew what you had to do there. That convicts me to go, man, I need to do that. I need to be better at having those moments to go, wait a minute. This is my moment to say, "Hey, can I pray with you for a minute?" Rather than go, "Well, hang in there." I didn't do her any favors. I missed it, man. And thank you for that reminder. That was a really big reminder, I think, to anyone who's a Christian to watch that, to go, man, we how often have we had that opportunity to pray with someone who really could use it, instead of typing prayers on a social media comment, when we don't actually pray. And it's like, so, man, like, thank you for sharing that. That was actually a really good reminder for someone like me who should know better. And that was really just a powerful, powerful moment. And
well, that's just one specific example.
Oh yeah,
I've missed it.
Yeah,
and we miss it. We fumble our way through this life and miss it all the time. And how often do we go the other way? All of us included, and you feel that tugging, that pull, but you still go the other way.
Yep.
It's not, and that night you go to bed and you go, "Doggone it," But I appreciate you saying that. Thank you.
No, I think it's great that you shared it, and I really hope it inspires more people. I mean, I'm sure you're smart enough to stay out of the comments for to see,
I try to. It's not easy. Listen, with the best of them. I mean, they make me mad. I read the stuff and I'm like, "Doggone, they don't like me," or.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen things was it Owl City? There's a group out. What's his real name? I think Adam Young. Yeah. I think Adam Young, or AKA Owl City, like he started to occasionally like put out just something on YouTube of him singing like an old hymn, because he'd be sitting in, and he'd put like, "I'm just singing at my piano thinking about all that God has done for me." And, and the comments from people would be like, "I'm really tired of this religious crap from you, man. Like, please get back to making good music again."
Yeah.
And, I don't think he ever like went, "Oh no, people hate it." I think he doubled down.
Yeah.
And honestly, like it's crazy that a secular musician has put out the best version of "In Christ Alone" I've ever heard, which is a version of hit that he did sitting at his piano in his house, like nothing crazy.
Wow.
It's just honest. And he talked about just, he was kind of going through scripture, and he was sitting at his piano, and you could hear it. He kind of is weeping a little bit in the song, and it's it's got that Owl City auto-tuney vibe to it. But it's really, really special. And it's like, but it's interesting to see the hate comments people will throw just because you're doing a good thing, and there are people who actually act like you're hurting someone by praying with them. Oh, why are you trying to indoctrinate people? Like this, the ridiculousness that people throw out there.
Yeah.
But kudos to you for not really letting that influence you in any way, as far as being scared to go that route. It's interesting because I'm on the other end of the spectrum. Almost all the content I ever do is essentially, it's ministry minded. It's focused on the brand, which is, Christian music. And a lot of times I want to branch off into things that aren't quite in the vein of ministry, but not necessarily like a bad or anything, but it's like, oh, is that, how well received will that be? If people will be like, oh,
interesting.
I'm about to put out content where I'm all about flipping and making money. I want to do like things like, hey, go into garage sales and show people how to make money.
Yeah.
And because I want to teach people, hey, look, you don't have to be broke. There's ways to make money. Let me show you. And, as a joke in the theme song that I'm putting out for it, like it says, there's like a part of it, it's from a movie, but basically it's greed is good. Yeah. And I don't really think greed is good, but it's just for the entertainment value of it. And like I'm scared to go that direction because it doesn't, it might alienate me from, oh, well, he's a Christian, but here he is, he's got a thing and it says greed is good because people just miss it. So I get nervous sometimes, or even in this podcast, I might even bring like an atheist soldier on here just because I find him interesting and I'd love to hear his perspective on why he doesn't believe in things like that. And people may get upset by that normally support me because I think people just have a high expectation of entertainers, whether they're Christian or non-Christian, of where unless you're like, I think people just expect you to stay in one lane. And that's a real fear for me. And I think it's cool to hear from you that you've never really even thought about that. You've just done what you feel called to do, and it seems to work well for you. So there's no anxiety in that capacity. What do you get stressed about when it comes to your content and things?
Sometimes I'll have an idea about something and I'll execute that idea, and it turns out it wasn't as good of an idea as I thought it might be. I never want to come across any way that I'm really not, because it can happen when you're in the entertainment industry. You can create a piece of content that doesn't portray you the right way, and it might not have even been your intention of the video in the first place.
This podcast is brought to you in part by Tone Junkie TV, your best source for Kemper, Helix, and impulse response profiles. Check them out on YouTube, all social media at Tone Junkie TV. Also check them on the web store at tonejunkiestore.com. Use promo code Golly to get 50% off site-wide. That's right, 50% off site-wide, tonejunkiestore.com.
So it bothers me when I watch like a video like I Got Punched and I read a couple of the comments that people were upset because I made somebody else upset. Essentially, that's what it was, is the response of the person. If you've upset somebody, and to be honest, I hate that. I really do. I can't stand it. I don't like to ever make anybody upset. It bothers me. The whole reason I do what I do is to get somebody to hopefully laugh.
Yeah.
So when it makes somebody upset, it always kind of bums me out. And I try really, really hard to like talk them down from the ledge and get them to, laugh a little bit and take it easy. But it's rare. It really is rare. It's not like it happens very often. I mean, it's probably 99.5% of the time it ends with somebody cracking a smile or something.
Sure. Now, I think if I had to guess, and I could be completely wrong, but I would say that of your content that I can think of, what might upset people the most in the moment before it's explained that it's a joke might be when you did, like, I think it's the See You Tonight drive up.
Yeah.
You kind of, I don't know, you kind of would drive up and say some like stuff like, oh yeah, this, that, the other thing, but I'll see you tonight. I'll see you tonight. And I could see someone being like, what the heck was that?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Like, I was showing him actually that video and I'm like, dude, you do that in the wrong town, you're getting shot.
Yeah, that's a creepy prank because you're right. You're insinuating to strangers that you know who they are.
Yep.
And that they know you.
Yeah.
And so they're immediately trying to place you in their mind. So when you drive by somebody and you're like, hey, I'm real sorry about that, by the way, last time. But this time we're going to fix it. And we're going to get it flat and we're going to fix it. And I'm going to be there. But it is going to be a little bit late. I just want to make sure you know it's going to be a little bit late. But I'm going to be there. They immediately go, who are you? And they're trying to place you. And sometimes if you watch, there's a silence there.
Yeah.
Because they're just looking at you going, who are you?
Yep. Trying to process what's happening.
Yeah.
And I can only imagine if you drive away and then get out of the car to try to go, hey, it was a prank. They're probably like, yeah.
Oh, and I would never do that. So the key element to getting everybody to where they feel non-threatened is to come across as a dumb good guy. You just, or even just a dumb guy. Even just a dumb guy. Because if you can get them to feel like you're just a guy that just is making a mistake, then you're fine. But if you come across threatening at all, or you say the wrong thing or something, then they're like, wait a minute, I'm going to call the cops. And you don't want that. So I think you always have to kind of play the dumb good guy. And you're always kind of, going to be in a good position.
Did you get any wild reactions when you did the thing with Kimmel with the social media stalking thing?
No, not really. That's a creepy bit.
It was very eye opening though.
Yeah,
it's wild.
Yeah,
it's wild, but eye opening. That like I tell my daughters all the time, like when you see those things that are like, fill out this questionnaire if you're bored. Like, don't put that out there because now you're telling everybody what your first dog's name was. Yeah, like stuff that that might be. This stuff could be questions on like a password protector thing. Like don't answer that stuff. Yeah, it's wild.
It's really crazy. I did several of those videos before Jimmy Kimmel, and I did a handful of them, and they're weird. We lived in Huntington Beach, so number one, you got like 50% of your clients or victims are in bikinis and stuff like that, on the beach, and so, but you're on Instagram and you do hashtag Huntington Beach, refresh. And you just sit there and you just refresh. And you see somebody pop up and you realize they're right over there.
Yep.
They just posted something right over there. And if they're in like a bright orange shirt, well, now you know what to look for. So you go find them. And by the time you track them down, you've discovered their favorite stuff. What do they like to eat? What do they eat today? And things like that. And so my bit on the social media stuff was really coming from a place of usually trying to make them think that we know each other.
Yeah.
That way they don't feel threatened in any way. So I would never walk up and be weird with anybody. Yeah. I would usually say, "Hey, Alyssa." And they would be like, "Yeah? Yeah, how you doing? Hey, it's Jack. Good to see you." Right? They'll immediately shake your hand. They're a little leery, but they're like, "Oh, okay. What can you refresh my, memory?" And then you say, "Your little dog, with the curly hair and whatnot. How's it doing?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, doing good." So now they think that you're building a rapport with them.
Yep.
Boy, oh boy, that was really fun. I haven't done that bit in a long time.
It's interesting. There was one you did too, where like you pretended to be like psychic and can like know their phone code or that they had one or not.
Oh yeah.
And it's weird. It took me like, I think it was like 2 or 3 of them. It took me till the third one to realize, they probably follow him around and watch him put the code in, and then he goes, "Oh hey, let me do this trick." That's probably how you do it, right?
Yeah.
No.
We shot a whole bunch of those. It took, gosh, I don't know, maybe we approached 100 people. I don't know. We approached person after person after person, and we took the 4 most common codes that people do with their phone, and we got a handful of people, and we got the correct. That's how we did that.
Wow. Okay.
So it was patterns, number patterns, and design patterns on what most people do. I think
that's wild.
I think the most common one was like 4 1s or something like that. It was like 1 1 1 1, or it was something real.
Yeah.
And it took a couple days to shoot it, and we had to hit up a lot of people.
Oh, see, dude, I was under the impression you actually like followed people and waited till like they took out their phone and saw what they did, and then waited for another opportunity to, or maybe someone else was like, so guys, code's 4186. Probably would have been easier to do.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
But that's amazing. So you moved from Huntington Beach to Franklin, Tennessee.
Yeah.
What brings you to I came to Nashville, Tennessee for music.
Yeah.
What brought you here?
Well, we visited here. I've always wanted to come to Nashville. We never visited. We finally did. Had a great time. The whole family came. We did all the nerdy. We went to the Johnny Cash Museum, and we went to did all the Broadway stuff, and except for the bar, we're not bars people.
Same, yeah.
But it's still, you're walking down the street and you see all the famous, the Bluebird and all this stuff. It's still fun and cool. We went to the Opry and we did all this stuff, and we're like, we love it here. And then we visited Franklin. Really, really liked Franklin because Franklin rhymes with Pranklin. And so, I guess. So we love that city. Went downtown, and we're like, oh, we love this. We just love it. Moved back, went back. Had a family meeting and said, we just feel the urge to move. I think, what do you think? And we all thought it was a great idea. Madison, my daughter, she's a singer, and it made sense for her to be somewhere where there's music going on.
Yeah. You sing too a bit. I've heard you sing.
You've heard me sing?
There was a video you put out years ago. I think you did a duet with, she was little.
Oh, Madison. That was Maddie? Yeah. Oh, that's great.
I was like,
she was 5.
Yeah. And I was like, this guy could sing too?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
She's
really, really well
almost
done.
20 now.
I told you, I was actually a fan, man.
Well, that's incredible. That's incredible. Yeah. It's, before, that was before YouTube, I think. Because Maddie was 5, so... But yeah,
you had definitely posted. It might have been an older video when you had shared it, but I remember seeing it on social. Might have been could have been MySpace.
It probably was a few years later or something like that.
Yeah.
But I opened for Big Daddy Weave a little bit before YouTube and all that stuff.
Did you seriously?
I swear.
Really?
Yeah.
So I didn't know that. I just remember it was like an older style church. You kind of standing there.
Most people
singing.
don't. Yeah, most people don't.
That's
and it was
wild.
Jay, Jay Weaver, who was like really fascinated with this thing.
Okay.
With the Pooter, and he was asking me like 1,000 questions about it, and stuff.
That's awesome.
And
it's a shame what's kind of happened with Jay.
What's going on now?
I don't know for sure. I only know what they've shared, but I know it's more complications similar to what had happened with his feet.
Yes.
It's sort of a similar scenario.
Yes.
It's heartbreaking because, I don't know those guys super well, but, the couple times that I have seen them live, Jay's the first one off the stage to go pray with people.
I know, man.
It was just, inspiring. Whoa.
Yeah.
He didn't even go backstage to wipe himself down. He's just like, who wants to pray? We're here. It's like to see someone's faith like that, it's got to be hard on the family to be like, wow,
You're right. And to see someone go through what that guy has gone through and have his, I can't speak totally for him,
Sure.
but basically have his faith, it appears to be unshaken.
Yeah.
And it's just absolutely blows my mind. And we were in, I think, Grants Pass, Oregon, and at this little church, and it was a decent-sized church and was probably filled up about 15 to 20% of the church was filled up this night. I don't know why. Yeah. It was just very sporadic on this particular night. They had a marketing thing or whatever, some kind of an issue. And I'm looking around and I'm thinking, I wonder what these – I don't care, but I'm wondering what these guys think, about this. Like, what's it like for a band like them to come out on stage and see – a few people, right? I got to tell you, man, those guys performed and sang and ministered as if the place was packed.
Oh, yeah.
And as a group, they are some of the most beautiful people.
Oh, they're phenomenal. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. And they just even in fact, Jay said something to me that night about, if it's 1 or 2, it's worth it. If it's 1 or 2, it's worth it.
Now, you obviously, you've been here in Nashville a while. You mentioned before we started that you're with Conduit Church. Is your
Conduit?
Church? Yeah,
that's my church.
Yeah. So now, through all this, living in Franklin, being probably pretty close to the Christian music industry now. Now I understand you got to know Carmen in his last handful of months. What was that like for you? Getting to know him. Did you go into that with an idea for a movie, or was it just a chance meeting? How did that come to pass?
Yeah, it was a chance meeting. It really was. It was actually, well, not so much a chance, I guess. How it happened was, but a buddy of mine sent me a little online screenshot of something that showed that Carmen was going to be in this town about an hour from Franklin. And he just said, "You in?" And I'm like, all exclamation points, let's go, So it was only a few days away. And so we took off and we had a road trip to go see him. And it was just it was the greatest. My whole childhood came back to me. It's Carmen.
Yeah.
It's Carmen. If the cool factor I couldn't get it out of my head. It was just like, this is going to be Carmen.
Yeah.
I can't believe it.
That's awesome.
My brain went back to, I know every one of his songs by heart. I've been to probably 12, 13 concerts in my life of his. And my brain went back to something that happened. I had an encounter with Carmen when I was 15 years old.
Oh.
And he was doing the Radically Saved tour.
Okay.
And Capital Christian Center, Sacramento, California. And there was a lady in my church. I went with my youth group and a few of the people in the church. And this lady in my church, and we had all kind of stood in line and got something signed or a picture or whatever, you know. And this lady, she walks up and finally gets up to the front. And there's this other room that Carmen goes to where all the merch is set up. It's almost kind of like a gymnasium type of place. And there's a stage in there, and his feet are his legs are dangling off the stage, and he's sitting there signing autographs for people. And I already had my turn. I didn't say anything to him. I was too nervous, you know, but he signed my thing, and I beat it. And then this lady from our church walks up. I don't know what she's doing. I think she's getting an autograph or something. And she walks up. She ended up telling him, "You see that kid over there?" He turns, looks at me. I didn't know this was happening. And she goes, "It would mean everything in the world to him if you could pay him just a little bit of special attention." And that's what happened. At the end, the crowd starts to kind of dwindle down. He jumps up on the stage, so he kind of pushes himself up and hops up. And I hear snap his fingers, and he goes, "Hey!" And I turn over there and look, and I'm looking around like this, and he goes, "Come on, let's go." And I didn't know what to think. I was a 15-year-old kid who, he may as well have been Elvis Presley, really. I mean, if you grew up in the church, Carmen was, he was the Elvis of Christian music. Nobody was like him. He even moved and sounded a little bit like him. I mean, it was just really, really cool. And so I ended up following him backstage to this little room, and we sat there. We found a room. He sits on a couch. I sit on a chair next to the couch, and he just starts to talk to me, and he gets to know me, and he asks me questions about my. He says something about my mom, who said that he should talk to me, and I said, my mom's not here, and he goes, "Oh, the lady in the line," and I said, "Oh, that's Nancy, and she's from my church." So we end up talking. Carmen stayed in this room with me for 30 minutes.
Wow.
As I kept looking over at the wall, at the clock, I could barely understand what he was pouring into me because I kept looking at the clock because I couldn't believe this was happening. It was such a big deal. And he prayed with me, encouraged me. I said, "I just think that someday we're going to work together." Now, at that time, I thought I was going to be a singer.
Yeah.
And I was going to sing the kind of stuff he did. He was like that's who I wanted to be, you know. Mm-hmm. And so, anyway, we're starting to leave, and I'll never forget this. Carmen says, "You know, I bet we will work together one day." And I leave. I walk back over to my group. Some of his people have to, I forgot to tell you something really, really cool. He's praying with me. And there's like a little knock at the door, and the door opens, and it's some people on his crew or something like that. And they're like, and Carmen, my eye kind of goes open like this. Carmen puts up his finger like this, and they quietly close the door and back off. That was it. He finishes the prayer.
Wow.
And that was to a 15-year-old kid.
Yeah.
That was everything.
Yeah.
Like, he wasn't going to let
That's
nothing get in
amazing.
the middle of that. So I go back to my group, you know, at the end of everything, and
But you were a superstar for that.
oh, it was, I broke. They were just like, "Tell us everything. What happened?" You know, back there, you know, and I just started bawling like a baby.
Yeah.
Like, I was so emotional, and I couldn't believe that it just happened to me. But it really changed, you know, it changed my outlook because you don't know how these people are in real life, and I heard stories about how people are when you meet them and stuff like that. So who knows?
Yeah.
So, I always remembered that, and this was like a rekindling of that. It was like, wow, you know, this is really going to be an incredible thing to see.
Did he remember you when you met him again?
He didn't say that he did.
Yeah.
But, you know, I was on the road trip with my buddy. This was last July. And I posted a selfie of us and while he was driving and I was in the passenger seat. And I just posted a selfie and I said, we're on our way to sea. And I tagged Carmen. Anybody remember this guy? And comments started flooding this my Facebook page. And almost everybody knew who he was.
Yeah.
And it occurred to me that over the years, I've developed a fan base on Facebook of a lot of Christians because they start to figure out clean content. He says things like God bless to a lot of people. Like they start to put pieces together.
Yeah.
So I think over the years, I've been able to develop a lot of people that really had the same vision that I had. And they want to see that carried out and appreciate that kind of comedy. And so it stands to reason that a lot of these people knew who Carmen was. And so we got all these comments that were like, is he still around? I thought he was dead. Does he still tour? How did the cancer thing go? People knew something, but they didn't know the end of the story. They didn't know what's this guy doing today? So that kind of put a fire in me to want to find out too.
Yeah. That's
so
wild.
So we got there, and some people started to see that we were there, and a few people came up and kind of talked to me and stuff, and they were like, "What are you doing here?" You know, and I'm like, Carmen's a big deal to me. And then Carmen's road guy, who went on the road with him, came over to me and he goes, "Are you a fan of Carmen's?" I said, "Yeah." They go, "Man," and then he sat next to us and he started telling us all about Carmen. Before you knew it, my buddy and I were on a tour bus with him, and it was Mercy Me's tour bus that Carmen was in that night because his tour bus was broke down. Apparently tour buses break down all the time.
Yeah.
And so we're sitting there on the tour bus, and we just clicked immediately. And social media is my whole world, so I was really curious about that. How are you doing on Facebook? How are you doing on YouTube, you know? And so we started talking, and then before you know it, we ended up talking on the bus for about an hour or so, and he writes his name down on a Sharpie and gives it to me and take off. And then we just kind of started communicating. About a week later, we had our attorneys negotiate this life rights deal, and it took about a month to do that.
Wow.
And to make a movie. And I'll tell you, it's been an incredible journey. But I would have thought that he would be here for the end of for the finish line. Yeah. And that's the tough part.
So the movie's going to be it's not a documentary.
No.
It's a motion picture.
Yes.
And so I saw that you had some like an Indiegogo or something like that go up. And is that still a thing, or has that been
It's
completed?
over.
It's over.
It's the Indiegogo thing was actually something I did not want to do, and Carmen knew I did not want any part of an Indiegogo. I don't know how they work. I've never done a crowdfunding campaign in my life, but you know, Carmen had this thing, like his fans were really, really important to him, and so we're doing this other movie in February in North Carolina called A New Normal. And it's a true story. It's a faith-based film, too, about a doctor who gets in a car accident and suffers brain injury. And it's based on a book that he wrote. So I know how movies get funded, and I know the process, and we've been kind of walking through the steps of it.
Yeah.
And I knew that this was a home run. Like, this story is an unbelievable story. So I wanted to go the traditional route, which we are.
I'm assuming that's investors.
Investors or a studio movie or something like that, where, they get behind it and they go, okay, here's your budget, and you get it going. And that's what we did for this other movie. And it started out as, a $1 million movie and ended up almost $5 million just because of that. And so I know how that works, and I wanted to go down that road. And Carmen was just like, Well, here's the thing. If you do this crowdfunding thing, because I did it, I know a little bit about it from a few years ago. These guys are going to be the first people to see the movie and to spread the word and to get it out there, and they're going to feel like they're a part of something. And so I'm like, yeah, I get that. I understand that, you know. So we kind of settled on that. And so when he passed away, it was such an unexpected thing. And ultimately, we just, I got together with the with his estate, his family that have to deal with all of the aftermath of all of this stuff. And, they were just like, let's do this. I mean, let's honor him and do this the way that he wanted this done. So we did. And, so we're super far along now. In fact, the first thing I did while Carmen was still, we had the whole story before he left this earth. I mean, we had gotten together so many times that I knew the story. And at one point I looked up at Carmen and I'm like, if you could take Goodfellas and put it with I Can Only Imagine, that's the movie. I mean, that's the movie, right?
Oh, I gotta be in this. I gotta be like yelling, "Go get your shine box!"
Get your shine box.
Put me in, coach. Go get your shine box, huh?
Yeah.
Get out of here.
Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Hey, that's right.
That's right. That's right. Home, man.
Yeah, you know it. Wow.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
I could do some Tony Soprano if you want. What?
Gosh, Carmen loved.
You think this is a joke, huh?
Yeah.
You think this is a joke?
Yeah. And he loved that stuff.
Yeah.
He was such a big fan of the mob movies and everything,
Yeah.
And it was really close to home for him because he grew up by these people.
Yeah, probably grew up there playing cards out in the front of the, out in front of the front.
Oh, yeah, you
Wild
wouldn't
stuff.
believe. I'm telling you, man, Carmen told me some stuff that happened from the time that he was about 8 years old. And some of that stuff followed him throughout his ministry. I mean, there are things about Carmen that nobody knows that makes for, I got to tell you, probably one of the absolute best movies you've ever seen in your life. And it never strays away. The story never leaves what he was passionate about, which was souls. And earlier in the, a little while ago, you talked about something about what it was like for him to go from stadiums to these smaller groups and stuff, And Carmen was always, all the way until the end, was like trying to figure out if there was somebody else in the room who needed salvation. And that's the cool thing to me. Here's a guy who broke the world record for largest solo Christian concert of all time, who still holds the record today.
Yeah.
71,132 people, I think, at this Houston stadium, I think, the Texas stadium. And it was like, now he's at these smaller crowds and he's still, that's the thing that's on the top of his head. And I remember being on the tour bus that night and he had a handful of people going, talking about T-shirts and how many this sold, how many of these sold, and that, and the other. And Carmen stops our conversation and goes, "Hey, anybody know how many people got saved tonight?" And he wasn't doing it like to prove a point. It popped into his head because the people around him were talking about numbers.
Yeah.
And the only number that he really cared about was how many people came up to get saved tonight.
Yeah.
It was a smaller church that he was in, and the answer was like 7, I think. But those 7 people, that's all that was in it. That's what he's thinking about. And that's what did it for me. When I heard that, I'm like, wow, this guy, I got to get to know this guy. I got to really get to know who Carmen is.
It's easy to get lost, too. It's easy to get lost in all those numbers and the minutia of all that stuff. And then sort of like later be like, like, when's the last time we even talked about Jesus?
Yeah.
It's easy to get caught up in that. I mean, I'm just an independent artist with nowhere near the success that man has had. Just trying to wrap my head around and like how crazy it must have been at the height of his career, but yet to still be focused on that all the time, because he does have a reputation for that. For like, he was always focused on that, just being a ministry, salvation, and trying to reach as many people as possible. And that's his reputation with that. So it's always struggling. Again, as an indie artist, a lot of times it's like the end of a tour comes and you're like, how much money do we make? Got to pay the band. How much fuel? Is the credit? How much left on a credit card? And then it's like, wait a minute, getting lost. It's easy to get lost in that stuff. Yeah, and totally even just for a few minutes, sometimes it's tough. It's easy to forget. Wait a minute. That's not why we're here. We're here. How many people got saved? How many people were impacted by what we did? Yeah. And make that the number one thing. And I think because when you do make that the number one thing, it makes everything else a little easier. Yeah. Because as long as you're doing that, you're winning, and the other stuff will take care of itself one way or the other. And I think that's pretty wild. But was it ever easy for him? Was it ever easy for him to always kind of look at that, or was it something that he admitted he struggled with at times?
Which,
as far as like keeping focused on that, or was it just so easy for him to keep focused on the ministry aspect of it and not get lost in it?
He never expressed really that it was hard. I mean, I'm sure he had some of the same difficulties that everybody had, but
sure.
He really kept his focus. I mean, that was that was always his main objective and his main focus. And here's a guy who really had so many things going for him that could have led him in a completely opposite direction. And I think he knew that when he got saved at Disneyland.
Oh.
Under Andre Crouch.
Oh, wow.
And they did the Night of Joy concert, and Andre Crouch was there, and he got saved there. He's one of these guys that when he got saved, he was all in. He was all in. And some people kind of misunderstood him as maybe judgmental, or he had a mantle that couldn't be touched, or because he was so evangelistic. He was like the Billy Graham of Christian music.
Yeah.
And then he did free concerts because he didn't want anybody to have to pay to hear the gospel. Well, that was in an environment, that was in an era where his peers were charging for concerts.
Right.
So that was a tough thing that he had to go through. He had to go with his convictions and do what God, the Lord, laid on his heart to do. But at the same time, it kind of makes everybody else stay away, keep distance from him, because what are they supposed to say about that?
Who was big? So he was obviously the biggest at one point. Who else was big in his era? Like, what would you call who was competition for him essentially?
Well, he never had any competition, but the people who were just as big as far as names would have been like Amy Grant, Michael W. Smith, Stephen Curtis Chapman, Brian Duncan would have been one. Mm-hmm. He never thought badly. That's the thing. He never thought badly about any of them charging for tickets or any of that stuff. It's just that he felt impressed by the Holy Spirit to allow people to come see his concerts for free. It didn't make him popular with the record execs. It didn't make him popular with his peers. It did, but it made him very popular with the church.
Sure.
And with the world, because essentially unsaved people were coming in droves to the concerts, getting led to the Lord. And that was his goal. His goal wasn't any of the other stuff. It was the number of people that would come up and get saved that night. So
that makes sense. And that's, and it seems, especially in that era, like that definitely made him stand out for sure. And, that's even like it's sort of like the vein of Keith Green. I think Keith Green wouldn't, he went out and kind of did it differently too.
Yeah. He didn't charge either.
Yeah. It's tough because like as an indie, a good amount of the time, I don't charge. We're like, hey, well, these are what our expenses are. If you can help cover it. And most churches are happy to do it. But, I've never been like, nope, we're not coming because you can't pay us. Like, I won't do that. Yeah. And it's, honestly, it's the examples of people like Keith Green or even a Carmen. It's like, man, they always did it and found a way to make it work. So who are we? Even though it's 2021 and things are ridiculously expensive to do now, it's like, man, it's still proven, man, that if God has called you to do it, he's going to provide one way or the other.
Yeah.
And if you're serious about what you're going to do, if it's about money, it's probably going to fail.
True.
And it's amazing. So I think it's amazing that you're making this movie, and so it's been greenlit. It's happening. 100%.
Oh, it's happening 100%. We're shooting next summer.
Okay.
We're about to announce in the next couple of weeks. Legit, like casting director, a couple of the stars should be announced. That we're talking to some different people right now that we are like. I wish I could tell you more right now. We're just beside ourselves going, man, this is so exciting. And
I'd be excited if I was in the movie too. We won't leak this, but even though I look a lot like Carmen, no. I'm just
yeah, right. Okay, got it. Yeah.
But man, that is so exciting that it's just happening, and you just every time from the minute you walked in the door here to now, like every time the conversation turns to Carmen, you light up in a way that is just clearly obvious.
You know what I think about? Are you guys on a time crunch?
No.
Okay. Are you doing the 10-minute thing for me? Okay.
Yes.
I'm good for a few extra minutes. I got something to say. Okay. I often wonder about a lot of things. Like I think destiny and no, not destiny. Forget that. I always pay attention to what it seems like the Lord's will is for somebody's life. And I think it's important to look at the signs. Mm-hmm. The Lord sometimes puts you into contact with different people for a purpose. And I think about my family moving here roughly 4 years ago. Mm. And if we never would have moved here, I wouldn't have met the guy who said, "Are you in?" to go do this.
Yeah.
And, I've said for years and years, I've said, I really felt like this dumb, fart toy and all these videos on YouTube and all this stuff was really a platform to do what I know I'm supposed to be doing. And this project now is such a big deal because the whole purpose of the movie is to lead people in droves to Christ. That's the purpose of it. It's entertaining like you wouldn't believe, but the end result of this is for people to really hear the gospel message from somebody who you never should have heard it from. Because he had so many opportunities to go the other way.
Yeah.
So much temptation, so many things that this guy had to deal with. So I understand. You're right. I feel myself doing that sometimes when I talk about Carmen, because we probably had 100 hours, no joke, of conversations about all these different things. And as I started to put the pieces together, this is one of those things that the Holy Spirit orchestrated and put everything where it was supposed to be. I promise you, Jack Vale can't do this. He can't, I can't, there's no way I could make something like this happen. But the Lord started to put some interesting people in my life. And before we moved here, I got a guy who reached out to me and said, my client is a legendary record producer, and he's a big fan of your videos. And he wants you to come into the studio and prank Kanye West, and we've got this idea and all this stuff. And I'm like, I'm in, whatever this is. And I find out that this record producer's name is Rodney Jerkins. Mm-hmm. Well, I didn't know who it was at the time. I had to kind of look him up and everything. And then I found out he produced for Michael Jackson, and, the guy just did Justin Bieber songs and all this stuff. Like, Rodney Jerkins, now I know who he is, right? Mm-hmm. So we meet up and we talk, and we're like making plans to pull off some pranks and do some really, really fun stuff, in L.A. And we never did any of that, by the way. We remained friends, but none of the other stuff came to fruition. Scheduling didn't work out, different things, whatever. Somebody's out of town, somebody canceled a session, all this stuff. I don't know why, but after one of my conversations with Carmen, I call him, and I say, "Hey, I'm going to produce a movie about one of Christian music's biggest artists of the 80s and 90s." And he goes, "Who?" And I go, "Do you know who Carmen is?" And he goes, "Carmen? I was listening to Carmen yesterday." So I run in the house. I call Carmen immediately. I'm like, "Dude, I got to tell you something." I told him exactly what Rodney said. I said, I just called Rodney Jerkins. And when I said I called Rodney Jerkins, he goes, the record producer? Carmen knew who he was. And this guy is such a Carmen nut. This guy knew the songs, and he was with his wife in the car in Malibu the day before listening to some of Carmen's songs. And so, you know, it was easy to get him on board. I mean, I told him about the story and everything, and he's like, I'm in 100%, whatever you. So that's one of the kind of, you know, the big things that we're going to be utilizing is being able to
that's amazing.
Get a lot of this music and stuff like this and recreations of Carmen's songs and a reimagined Satan Bite the Dust, you know, from one of today's biggest, you know. So we're negotiating all that stuff, and he's all jazzed about that. But there's those types of people who, there's another guy who's not a Christian, but he's an Academy Award-winning director. And he and I made a TV show. We created a TV show together and sold it to Fox. And this was years ago. This is before any of this stuff.
Wow.
And I call this, and then he won an Academy Award for one of the greatest movies. And I call him up and I tell him all about Carmen. He has no idea, right? He had to do a bunch of research to find out who he was. Became intrigued, you know, really fascinated by this guy. So fast forward to today, it's like everything, and it's just like God brought these things in my life together, so waiting for this.
And none of these people were like, you're out of your mind, this isn't going to work. No way. I mean, they're all like, whoa, yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
In the entertainment industry, I'm sure, and you know this probably way better than I do, but I mean, I know this in the music world is they will look for reasons to say no to things.
The only time was the director. He said, where's the, you know, he kind of wanted to know, what's the dirt?
Right.
What's the real, like, what's going to be that, you know, controversy almost or something like that.
Yeah.
And I thought about it. And I finally, it occurred to me, there's not really a controversy about Carmen the man, the guy, but there was so much controversy surrounding him. There were so many people he was attached to, people around his life who would leech onto him.
Sure.
And, you know, the controversy is, and I would name it this guy, and this is what happened, and then it became that the interesting thing about this was a man who was rock solid in his faith and had every opportunity for years and years, decades, to turn around and walk away, or to be bought by the industry, and never did it. He never did it.
Yeah.
They went to him, and when it was time to kind of, you know, cross over like everybody was doing, he's like, if I do that, then I'm just making music.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, all of this stuff happened. When I'm able to tell you the names of some of the people involved, the further names like actors and things like that, you're gonna know their names. And it's, some of these people are not saved, but they get it. They get it. They understand what it's like to be so passionate about something, and that this individual happened to be passionate about souls. He happened to be passionate about salvation because this is what he believed he was called to do by God.
That's amazing, man. It just sounds like God is using you to put together a very intricate puzzle, my man. That's really, 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 it's inspiring, and it's just all the full circleness of all of it too. You know, and I hope I hope that you put a little moment in the movie. It may seem like a nothing moment, but knowing the story when you met Carmen, I hope that's somehow in that movie, just to show his heart and the impact on you, because all of this probably happened because of that moment. You know?
Yeah.
That's pretty wild.
It's there.
Is it?
Yeah, it's there. The script is done. It's being polished right now, but it's done.
That's amazing. So
yeah, there's a lot of little interesting stories like that.
So you're filming in the summer, and what's your target release? Is it going to be what's your target release?
Beginning of 23.
Okay, being 23. Is it going to be theaters?
Yes.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
I'm excited for you. I mean,
Yeah. We'll have to come back and do like an update or something.
I would
like
love
that.
that.
Make it a little closer.
I would I'd love to have you back every week. Just to make this the Tom Golly Jack Vale podcast. No. Now before we get out of here, you just announced something brand new. The Unveiled network.
Oh
TV network.
yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that. What can we expect from that? Where can people find it?
Well, so this is something I've been working on for the past year or so, and it's a TV network, like an actual TV network, which is really unbelievable that I can sit here and say that. I can't believe it. I always wanted to do something with the name Unveiled. And even we had a TV show 5 years ago on HLN. It was a reality show that followed my family around doing pranks as a family business.
Sounds kind of like a Christian band name, to be honest.
Unveiled? Yeah. Well, it's spelled Vale in the middle in caps with VALE. And so the Unveiled Network is really just a place for those who really love to laugh. In fact, I think that's our tagline. And so we've been working on it for a while, and basically it's a collection of pranks, comedy, 100% family friendly.
Okay.
And so we have licensed shows that are family friendly and funny, and then created our own original shows, which we're still creating as a TV network. And then also, over the years I've developed relationships with a lot of people that kind of captured my vision for family-friendly pranks.
Yeah.
And so there's these guys, J Stu Studios, who is just a couple of kids that act dumb and really funny guys. Now they're in their 20s, but and we've done some videos together. And then there's Tom Mabe. Do you know who that is? He's a friend of mine. He's done a lot of videos with me.
I've probably seen him in one of your videos. Yeah.
Tom Mabe is a legend, first of all. He way before YouTube. Like, he was the Revenge of the Telemarketers guy. He was doing prank call albums.
Okay.
And they were wildly successful.
See, I'm from up northeast, so the Jerky Boys were the popular prank call thing back then.
I ain't putting them on my network.
No.
But Tom Mabe, he's going to be a part of it. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, and then we've got just people like that. Like, so we've got hundreds and hundreds, even thousands of videos that have been turned into half-hour shows, and we're also creating new content that's similar to that. So a lot of pranks, a lot of sketches, and half-hour TV shows.
That's great. So where do people find this?
Well, it's brand new. Okay. So number one, if you want to watch some of the videos on demand, you can do that. Okay. Just by looking up Unveiled Network on anything: iOS, Android, Roku.
Oh, okay.
Amazon Fire Stick. What are some of the other ones? All that stuff.
Oh, okay.
And then the actual TV network has barely launched. So I think so far you can watch it on like some of the like Plex and some of those types of places where you get free live TV.
Yeah.
But it'll be about a year process rollout. So it's going to be, all the smaller ones at first, Samsung TV Plus.
Yeah.
You hang up the TV, connect it to the internet, you immediately got TV.
Yeah.
Right? We'll be there.
That's so great.
TCL, the TCL brand TV. You can hang those suckers on. We're on that. So
right there, TCL.
You got a TCL TV?
Yep.
Hey, you do. Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. See, you can see me right now. You can see. Look, you even got a Roku. It's a Roku too.
Yes, it is.
So you got two ways to.
Yeah.
So you can check that out, and then it's going to be Comcast, Dish, Direct, all that kind of stuff. It just takes a little while to get the approval for everything.
That's phenomenal.
So it's TV network.
Man,
that's great.
That's amazing. So from
fun.
HabbaBaba to
I know
your own TV network.
Yeah.
That's incredible. And then
thanks.
hopefully producing a number one movie.
Oh man, we just please pray for us, and just we want to get the word out and get this going.
Well, man, it has been an amazing time here, getting to know you.
Same to you.
Hearing your story, and look forward to having you back again.
Thanks.
So to anyone listening or watching, be sure to follow Jack Vale on YouTube, Instagram. Do you do TikTok? You do TikTok.
I do TikTok, not faithfully.
Not faithfully,
but I'm
yeah.
on there.
Okay, so I mean, basically, if there's social media, you'll find Jack Vale.
You could Google it.
So Google it, find it.
Yeah.
And I promise you, if you're not familiar with him, get familiar. You'll be glad you did. There's something about his videos and he does a great job of marketing, because sometimes once you follow him, it'll pop up randomly on your Facebook, and you're like, oh, it's a new video. It's 5 years old, but it's a video I haven't seen, and it's just so funny, and I enjoy it. It'll make your day make a bad day pretty good.
Cool.
So I appreciate you, Jack. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
All right. God bless. Wrap it.